he talked a lot about the faithfulness that God shows to generations, and kind of flipped it on its head about how so often older generations look at younger generations and lament, right? And oh, what is the world coming to? Yeah. And really said that is Psalm 100 completely contradicts that by saying God is faithful to the generations, and he is working, and it is our loss if we are not tapping into these younger generations.
Welcome to Hallway Conversations. We're a trio of educators who have plenty of questions about teaching and learning and school culture, and we believe in the value of reflection and collaboration as we seek to keep growing as teachers. This podcast is our place for thinking out loud together about issues in education and why they might matter to Christian educators. Welcome to the conversation.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 124th episode of the Hallway Conversations podcast. My name is Matt Beamers.
I'm Abby DeGroat.
And I'm Dave Mulder.
Our podcast is brought to you by our friends at the Center for the Advancement of Christian Education. We're always looking for topics of conversation and feedback, so please email us at hallwayconvospod@gmail.com. Your feedback and your ideas are important. Dave and Abby, it is the middle of May. The window outside tells me that summer is here. It's warm outside.
It is.
It's beautiful. Your grades are almost in.
Mine are done.
We had our closing faculty meetings yesterday.
Yep.
Course evaluations may or may not have come out today. Like it's
Here we go.
But I say that we're ending. Like it's coming to an end.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things we always talk about with each other, but we talk about with our own students, is the importance of reflection, right? To reflect on your learning, to reflect on your experiences. That's where deep learning happens, not just for our students, but also for us. So maybe just as a way to start, I'm just curious your reflections on your year. And you need to know Abby received a significant award at the faculty closing meeting yesterday. So to honor that, we're going to ask you to go first. And Abby, can I put you on the spot and just just about the award and just even what that felt like, your reflections on that?
Yeah, that's a good question.
You love talking about yourself. I just want to remind our listeners about that.
Well, it's a faculty award that Dort does every year. They do two categories of awards, one for scholarship and service and one for excellence in teaching. And so I received one of the excellence in teaching awards.
Yeah, you did.
This year, which was
it's about time.
Right. Seriously.
It was a big honor, and I appreciate it very much. So just talking about classroom practices and habits and ways of being in the classroom.
But to see you are clearly doing really good work here. We all know this around this department too, right? But to see our colleagues, noting that and you get recognized for it publicly.
Yeah, and there's something for that, right? In an organization to do that periodically. I think it's a great practice. I really liked the way that President Hoekstra introduced it, saying this is about the people being honored, yes, but it's also about recognizing the gifts in our institution and the way that God uses those. And so that's a great way to think about it.
It's a good reminder, right? Like that God provides the right people at the right time. And you were specifically honored for your work that you've been doing. But it's also an acknowledgement, God is doing good work.
Yeah, there's so many good things going on.
Absolutely.
I was, as you were receiving that award, how many years have you been teaching, Abby, including high school? Can I ask again?
19
years. And I think, and I had a chance to sit in the back of your class a couple times this semester even. And I think what I found myself thinking about as you were receiving that award, first of all, just your excellence, and you are an excellent teacher. Like I just am struck anytime I get to watch, and if any of our listeners are on campus and ever get an opportunity to watch you, I really encourage
come on
that.
in.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But
that's part of it, though. The fact you welcome people in.
It is. I walk in. I never actually ask. I just kind of show up in the back of the classroom. But the other thing that really struck me, Abby, is how hard you still work at it. You work hard at pedagogy. You work, there's no plug and play. And I know that's true of all of us, but I just think you are always thinking about what's best for students. Even some of the reflection questions that you from David Smith that
Yeah.
that you're always thinking about that. And so I'm just really I'm super grateful to work alongside of you. I'm super grateful that I get to observe you. But I think one of my takeaways, or the way you encourage me in my own work, is don't settle. Don't settle.
Well, and that's part of what makes it great, right? Like, I would never want to be still doing things the way I was doing things 15 years ago.
Yeah, totally.
Because who wants to not get better at your craft? It's more fun when you're better at it.
100%. I know, but I think we forget that sometimes.
It's so much more fun when it goes better because you're doing it better.
Yeah.
And so then it's a better experience for them, which in turn makes it a better experience for you.
Yeah,
right? The better your students are doing in your class, the more fun it will be for you to lead the class.
Yeah. Maybe I've said this line on the pod before, but no teacher sets out to say, I'm going to be the most mediocre teacher I could be, right?
No.
Like, we all want to get better. We have to want to get better at it.
Yeah, and so we're talking about reflection, and that's I'm glad you brought up those reflection questions. So I think that's the favorite thing that I did this year.
Talk
in
about
my
that,
class.
Abby. Sorry, just struck by that.
So Dort requires us to have our exam period be meaningful. Right? So we have to fill it.
Yeah.
And in 203, which is the planning, instruction, and assessment course that I teach, students write a unit plan for the first time, and we spend so much time on that unit plan. It's their culminating assignment. It's the first time they're doing it. So I walk them through it. I give them a ton of feedback. They revise it a bunch of times. I don't have it in me to give an exam after that.
Totally.
And I think it would be counterproductive.
Yeah.
Because that is their culminating learning product. That is the showcase of what they know and can do in that class.
Totally.
It's an authentic. So I was thinking about what to do then with my exam period. And I had saved an article from David Smith years ago that I had never actually used. I'm going to pull it up here a minute so I can get the questions right.
Yeah, and maybe we can link it in the show notes.
Sure.
Yep, definitely.
Yep. And it's called Reflections on How to End a Semester. And what I really appreciate about David Smith's work is he talks a lot about not only teaching Christianly in each class period, but also about having rhythms throughout the semester. And so this is about ending a semester not with an exam, which is fine too, but ending it honoring kind of the thinking about pedagogy that we've done with reflection. And so I took the questions for this exam period from this article. I split my class into 4 groups, and they each got half an hour with me, groups of 6. They were completely ungraded. And they knew that going in. There is no grade attached to this reflection. You're going to come here, you're going to have a conversation with me in groups of 6. Without being graded. Every one of them showed up. Every one of them spoke.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's another good reminder to me that grades are not the stick and the motivator that we think they are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. If you're giving students valuable, meaningful work to do.
Correct. They're going to show up and do it.
They're going to show up.
Yeah. So these are the questions I asked them. What was the most significant learning moment or process for you during the semester, and why? Number 2, what is one thing you learned this semester you don't want to get lost in the bustle of life?
That's a great question. Yeah.
How can you carry it forward? Yeah. Number 3, what is one thing you're still working on, or one thing that you still need to learn more fully?
That's
and
such
how
an
might you
important
continue
question.
doing that?
Yeah.
So as a teacher, I asked them to think about their work as a teacher. And then number 4, this is the one that teachers might feel uncomfortable with, but I think is so important. It's what is one way the course could be improved pedagogically to help next year's students. And I have to tell you, I got some amazing ideas from these students.
Oh, I bet.
Good constructive feedback and also really good ideas for how to take it to the next level.
Sure.
So I'll just give you an example. I think I'm going to ask them to do a teaching demonstration of one of their lessons from their unit plan next year in small groups. I do that in my methods class, and somebody talked about doing that
in the general methods.
In the general method, the secondary, and I was like, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to figure out a way to incorporate that.
That's great.
Next year. And just good feedback about Canvas, timing of assignments, kind of how things felt throughout the semester. Which is good.
What I love about hearing you say that, though, is this is evidence of you being a reflective practitioner, too, right? You want the feedback from your students. You see them as valuable, insightful individuals who can give you, they're the front row seat for everything that happened this semester. Yeah. And so then to tap into that. And I think about that for maybe our listeners too. Like, what are you willing to be humble enough to say, I don't have this all sorted out quite yet? And the students who are in the classroom, maybe that's where you're going to get great ideas to solicit the feedback from them.
And they do have good ideas. I will say that too.
But part of it is also comes from trusting them.
Yeah.
Well, that's right.
Like it's an act of vulnerability, right?
It is.
And I think, but I think that's why it's interesting to do it at the end of a semester when you've had the semester, not just in terms of pedagogy, but building trust, building relationship, right?
Yeah.
Like it's no coincidence that they all showed up, right? I mean, like you honor them, their voice is important to you all semester. And I think in some ways they also want to reciprocate the way you honor them by honoring you and showing up for it. Abby, is there anything else, like even for you as you think about it now as we're sitting talking? We weren't planning on talking about this, so I'm putting you a bit on the spot, but just a few reflections on what you heard.
Yeah, the last question I asked them too is what challenges they're going to face and how I can pray for them, and then we end in prayer. And so to see them being willing to share that too. And I think, and all I did was sit there and take notes and ask follow-up questions. But I think too, like we said, like our students know a lot of things, and things feel different to them than it does from the front of the room. We can't always know that how our intentions are playing out for students in their real lives. And like, so the rhythm of the semester and the way I timed assignments, they had some really good observations about that and about like pairing different things throughout the semester that, I'm not the one doing the work, so I can't know that. Right. And so I think that was really good. How things appear on Canvas, like the resources, they want resources. They want them to be organized well so they can access. So like they value the things that we're giving them. Like and to trust that they're going to use that and take it, that they want to do well. We had a sermon on Sunday, and he preached out of Psalm 100, and it's Shout for Joy to the Lord. But he talked a lot about the faithfulness that God shows to generations, and kind of flipped it on its head about how so often older generations look at younger generations and lament, right? And what is the world coming to? And really said that is Psalm 100 completely contradicts that by saying God is faithful to the generations, and he is working, and it is our loss if we are not tapping into these younger generations and seeing the way that God is working through them. And that I have always felt that way about students. It always rubs me the wrong way when people talk about students as if they're on the wrong path, or kids these days, right? Because I see how brilliant they are. Right. And so I think to remind ourselves of that.
It's a good reminder.
Yeah.
It has me thinking about this idea. I've maybe shared this on the pod before too. Like I get real reflective at the end of the year, and I start thinking about the work that we're doing as educators, and I think of it so often as planting seeds. And like we don't always get to see the fruit that's born out. That's one of the most frustrating things I think about teaching is that you're constantly planting seeds, or sometimes you're watering seeds other people planted, right? But so often we don't see the fruit. Maybe we have it a little better in higher education because we do sometimes get to hear back from our students, or they come back around and all that. And that happens in K-12 too. But maybe that's the thing I'm coming away from this year with too. Like, did I do enough? I sometimes grapple with that question. And when your attention gets divided, we're busy people, we're doing a lot of things. Like, did I do enough of the things? And to just be able to trust, I planted the seeds, someone else is going to water them. There is going to be fruit that's born out from this, whether I see it or not. I trust that.
He who started a good work, right?
Yes, but your comment about faithfulness has me thinking about that too, right? Like, we just need to be faithful to the calling we've received, and we're going to do the best we can with what we've got to God's glory, day by day, week after week, throughout the semester, throughout the year. And trust that God's got this. It's in His hands, and it's in His timing.
Yeah, to remind ourselves, I'm thinking about that we're co-workers with Him. In the work, right? And I sometimes we put. There's pressure that comes with being a teacher. There's no doubt, and it comes from in different forms from different stakeholders in the community.
For sure.
But we also have to find a way to remind ourselves, like, we're not alone in the work. And I mean that, like, literally with the three of us, we're not alone in the work, right? Like, we lean on each other and other people in our department and even beyond our department, but also what does it mean to know that God is walking with us, that we're doing the work alongside Him. And it's because I find it so interesting at times, like teaching can be the loneliest job, even though you're surrounded literally by hundreds of people every day. And I think some of the loneliness can come from, is this going to come to any good? Like, is this going to come to fruition? Like, is this right? There can be a hopelessness sometimes, right? Especially on long days. And it's that idea of like, how do we know we're planting seeds, and where do we look for evidence of that, right? And sometimes we do hear back from students, but I think sometimes it's also to go find it. Actually, sometimes what happened to some of our former students? Where are they?
Chase them down. Find out that story.
Like just check in with them, right? And I think it's in some ways one way we keep our baptismal promises actually is to keep checking in on them, right? Like, whatever happened to that student, and how are you doing? And just like we love it when we get a note from them, I also sometimes they love hearing from us, even if it's 5 or 10 years later. But how do you deal though, Dave, with the have I done enough? Like, how do you balance that though? Because it's a question I think that plagues all of us at the end of the year, because in a sense, you can always do more.
Absolutely.
And so how do you make sure that you don't lean towards mediocrity?
Right.
Well, I've done enough.
Yeah.
And yet don't beat yourself up where you're like, well, I should have done more. Like, how do you balance that?
And this is my forever problem in this profession, right?
Yeah.
Like, I have very, very high standards for myself. And I mean, most of the time I meet my own standard for myself. Okay, so I'll be honest about that. But oftentimes all I see is the gap. Right? All I see is the gap. Like, I see what I set as my bar, and I see how far I've fallen short of my own expectations for myself. And so, to be gentle enough with myself to know, like, sometimes I've done enough. Yeah. And not that I'm going to settle for mediocrity. I don't expect that for myself. I don't expect that for any teacher, right? But we also are human beings, and to recognize that we're limited. I come back to Kelly Kapick's book we read as a faculty a couple years ago, right? Like, it's all about limits, and that's actually how God has created us to be. It's actually how we're created to be, that we're limited, we're finite. I think that's a big cultural lie that, broadly speaking in culture, but teachers too. Like, you can be anything you put your mind to. Actually, you can't be anything you put your mind to. That we are limited. So I don't have a good answer for that question, because it's something that I do continue to struggle with. Just being very transparent, like I worry a lot about my own teaching practice, and not just in a what other people think about me kind of a thing, but I worry, like, what does God think about this? Have I done what I can with the gifts He's given me, to the best of my ability and to His glory?
Dave, is it, or Abby too, like, is it fair then to say, because we're limited and we can always do more, and the work is never ending, that Sabbath is an important part of the work? Like, I just think about that as we're ending our year, and people who are listening are getting close to ending their year. What's the role then of that phrase? I've heard you use that, Dave. Sabbath is part of the work.
Yeah, that's right.
Because that feels a bit like an oxymoron. So can you just talk about that a bit?
I'll just say my spiel. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this too, so push on this. But I think about the creative work that God did. When you read through Genesis 1, right, and you see the days of creation, and God said, and it was so, and there was evening and there was morning. There's such a rhythm to reading that, right? And then after the rhythm, God's done all this really good work. Of course He did. He's God. Of course He does good work, right? God doesn't make junk. He makes beautiful things. And then God rested. And the wonder that I have about that passage of Scripture, and I say this as a science teacher who taught this and tried to infuse this into my teaching, right? Like, that's actually a celebration of good work. When God rested, after all of His work of creation, He says, this is very good. And it's almost like He's sitting back to take a few minutes here to just say, like, I've done good. I've done really good work. right? And of course, God does good work. I think maybe that's the model that we can say too. Like, we have worked hard. And that's good. We should acknowledge, we should acknowledge when we've done hard work and it's been, done well to the best of our ability to God's glory, that we can sit back and just reflect on that and see it for the goodness that it has been. And then we need to rest. Like, we are, because we're limited and finite.
Right.
Does God need to rest? I don't think he needs to rest, but
Right.
he
But I think we do.
chooses to. And I think we do, right?
Yeah.
And so then to think about Sabbath as part of the work, like, in order to be at my best, I need to rest.
Yeah, I think of it too as the analogy of when I taught ed psych, I would always tell the future teachers when we were studying physical development, taking away recess from kids to get work done is actually doing more harm than good.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You are actually being less efficient, because if those kids don't get a break, they cannot work as hard, and so you're actually undermining what you're trying to do. And I think the same is true for teachers.
Right. Yeah. If we're trying to always perform at a high level without ever taking time to pause,
I think our performance dips.
Yeah.
Right. I think rest is part of performing well.
That's a good call.
It makes me, I'm suddenly thinking of my, when I was a principal, our head of school, Dave Lowen, just one of the great leaders that I've worked under. And I remember school goes to the end of June in British Columbia, and he was going on a big trip in July. And I remember, and I'm paraphrasing here, but I remember him basically saying something like, I'm going away for 3 or 4 weeks. I'm not checking email. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
And there was something that when he said that gave us all permission to rest, like go camping. I remember him using a line something like, if I need to get a hold of you, I will, but otherwise go and be guilt-free. Go away. Go sit around a campfire. Go hike. I'm not expecting you to be in this office. Don't come to school unless you absolutely have to. And I'm actually just thinking a little bit as a former principal, even just how, for school leaders who are listening, how are you releasing your teachers to rest this summer?
Yeah, that's good.
Do they physically need to hear from you? Please don't come in. Please rest. Please be with your family. Please do what you need to do to flourish. Because for some teachers, they literally need to hear that. Otherwise, they feel like they have to be working. And if rest is part of the work, maybe they need permission to rest.
And even to be directive about it. In that way, right? To say, I'm not checking my email. Don't bother me.
No,
right?
it was so important for us to hear that. So maybe closing question, Abby, what does rest look like for you this summer? If rest is part of the work, how are you going to work at resting?
Well, in an obvious way, we leave for vacation in, 10 days, maybe.
Who's counting?
Yeah, ish. So 2 days after my kids get out, we'll go be gone for a week and sit on a beach and.
Perfect.
Yeah, we'll do some adventuring because we don't just sit in my family, but that's part of the rest too. We've got friends down there, and so it'll be a good time. Great food.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep, sun. So that'll be good, and then we go to the lake quite a bit. That'll be restful for me. In between, my children have umpteen activities, so I will be sitting in a chair watching a lot of ball, driving people around, which will be good too.
Yeah. A different rhythm, though.
Different rhythm. Yep. Being outside.
Nice. How about you, Dave? How are you going to work at resting this summer?
Yeah, working at resting. So I mentioned before, too, biking is good mental health break for me. I've got several audiobooks that I'm looking forward to reading while I'm out pedaling. So that'll be an important part. Really enjoying having our dog at our house. And he's been frustrating in ways, too, because he's got a lot of puppy in him yet. But he's so high energy. We do at least 2 walks a day of half an hour every time. So that's been just really good. And that is restful for me. Just to be out early in the morning and be out in the late afternoon, evening. Just to enjoy being outside. Yeah. That's been really important. And I guess maybe that's a word of encouragement too, right? As much as we talk about resting takes on different character for different people. And it might be, you're going to catch up. I've got a show I've been waiting to watch too because I've been busy in the semester. And so I'm going to binge that one here the next couple of weeks, right? And being indoors in the basement, that's not all bad either, right? We got to choose different things to help us rest.
No,
how about you, Matt?
Yeah, I'll, in fact, this weekend I'm going back home to Canada to visit my daughter, my mom and dad, or you just miss them. And so just to be with them and to be outside there walking around and visiting and restoring relationships brings restoration to me.
That's good.
I'm a big walker, so I love going for walks. I'm a really early riser, and so I just love in Iowa getting up at 5:30 in the morning, 6 o'clock, sitting on the patio. I at that point I don't listen to anything. I just sit with my coffee, and whether it's silent prayer, whether it's trying to let the prayer come to me, so to speak. Just I said to one of our colleagues yesterday, like, I want to try to live more slowly this summer, and I'm not exactly sure what that is, but I kind of gave them permission to say, hey, how are you doing at living slowly? And so, and I enjoy work, so I don't mind coming in and doing some writing or reading, and I think it's a gift that I also feel like when I'm not here, I'm good with it. Like, I don't feel that guilt. So, and I think it actually allows me to enjoy being here more. So sitting around campfires, just things like that. So it's just all good for my soul. Dave, I was thinking, I'd maybe want to end with this. I was thinking about this idea of planting seeds. That really resonated with me. Because even as you were talking, I was suddenly going through, here's an old word for some of our listeners, the Rolodex in my head of some of my former students, and just thinking about, I wonder whatever happened to. And the prayer of Oscar Romero kind of talks about this idea that it ends with, we're the workers, not the master builders. And I really like that. So maybe just to end this season of podcasting, because we're going to rest from podcasting.
That's right. We're going on hiatus, friends.
We go on hiatus. So just maybe these words. Prayer of Oscar Romero. It helps now and then to step back and take a long view. The kingdom is not only beyond our efforts, it is even beyond our vision. We accomplish in our lifetime only a tiny fraction of the magnificent enterprise that is God's work. Nothing we do is complete, which is a way of saying that the kingdom always lies beyond us. No statement says all that could be said. No prayer fully expresses our faith. No confession brings perfection. No pastoral visit brings wholeness. No program accomplishes the church's mission. No set of goals and objectives includes everything. This is what we are about. We plant the seeds that one day will grow. We water seeds already planted, knowing that they hold future promise. We lay foundations that will need further development. We provide yeast that produces effects far beyond our capabilities. We cannot do everything, and there is a sense of liberation in realizing that. This enables us to do something, and to do it very well. It may be incomplete, but it is a beginning, a step along the way, an opportunity for the Lord's grace to enter and do the rest. We may never see the end results, but that is the difference between the master builder and the worker. We are workers, not master builders. Ministers and teachers, not messiahs. We are prophets of a future that is not our own. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We hope you have a good, restful summer, and we'll see you in the fall.
This podcast was literally dreamed up during one of our actual hallway conversations. Our music is by Ethan Mulder. Hallway Conversations is created and produced by Matt Beamers, Abby DeGroat, and Dave Mulder. Hey, we have a favor to ask of you. Would you be willing to rate this podcast or write a review in your podcast app? Or if you found this conversation interesting or helpful, would you consider sharing it on your social media? Those things really do help podcasters out, and we would be so, so grateful. Thanks for listening, friends. Good.
As I have my children's crazy schedule for summer in front of me up on my computer.
Sorry.
Finding time to rest. Yeah, we get to do this too.
We do, and it's a short-lived season.
Yeah.